Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de how only in the richest country in the world can we have a book teaching how people should be spending more money in retirement. So is that really a viable option for most or anyone versus that whole traditional mindset of leaving a legacy behind when possible, right? Oh, I'm definitely going to get into this one. Hey, XenPuck here. So today I want to have a quick series of thoughts on the concept of whether essentially you should try to spend all of your money before you die, right? Versus aiming towards have some money remaining, aka a legacy, of course, of some kind by the time our expiration days rolls around, right? In the latter scenario, most people are thinking about leaving money for their kids. But to be honest, I don't even think that's necessarily all of the use cases, right? You can easily leave a legacy in terms of kind of some sort of charitable foundation or scholarship. That's also legacy, something that carries on your interest or passion that lives beyond our physical makeup, right? Now, I'm inspired to talk about this subject due to that book, Die with Zero, of course. But it's not really about the book, but the general idea behind it, that perhaps those of us who are lucky enough to have retirement savings at all, whether it's for regular or early retirement, perhaps we're bad at spending it. Sure. So I think that Die with Zero author would accuse this very small segment of people of, having a fear to spend their money. Oh boy, I feel like there's a lot to unpack here, so I'm itching to get into my rant. Can you tell? But before that, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, share, all those social media buzzwords or whatever, because I'm rich enough for me, and I just keep doing this for funsies, really. Now, one of the key points made for the Die with Zero side of argument is simple, that nobody's tomorrow is guaranteed, right? So hey, if you might die any day, why not spend more to enjoy it while you're, well, not dead yet? That is absolutely true. However, I feel like there's the other reverse side of the same argument that is not being considered when we say that, right? If life is not guaranteed, then neither is, whatever amount of money you have or its rate of growth, okay? Now, I'm going to ignore all the people in the world that has no investments, right? I'm sorry, those people really shouldn't be spending any time worrying about the volatility of their money because they don't have any, okay? Now, for the targeted audience of people who are already wealthy but maybe playing it too cautious, right? Isn't that precisely because they understand that none of their investments possibly would be guaranteed at the end of the day to perform as they expect, okay? I am actually a great example of this, right? I quit my job years ago to live off of investment income, but I know, hey, while I have a margin of error built in, I needed that margin in case some kind of market collapse occurs. It's not that I loved over-saving to build up that margin. It's because I have to, okay, to balance out the unpredictability of the market versus the unlikelihood of me dying suddenly, all right? So having great reserves is in fact a hedge against the lack of guarantee in terms of the value of our investments or even the value of money, right? I had to add that last bit in case, some people are like, well, what if I just keep my money in cash? I don't have to worry about market volatility. That's not true, okay? A lack of guarantee is still there against, hyperinflation could happen. That could destroy even the safe, nest egg of a all-cash portfolio, to be honest. Now, I want to address the thing I mentioned in the intro, right? There's some irony that the Die with Zero people think that some wealthy people are somehow programmed to not spend as much as they can because as if they're afraid of spending, okay? Well, let's address the fact that wealthy people spend less than they can first, okay? Well, they do that because that's likely how they got to be wealthy to begin with, okay? Most people do not have a switch to toggle just because they've reached a certain amount in terms of their, wealth number, okay? That's like trying to stop a snowball from rolling down the hill once it's gotten past a certain size, from like a size of a rock to the size of a person. Once it gets past the size of a person, you can't stop that snowball from rolling anymore, okay? Now, the other thing I want to point out is that I wouldn't call spending less than possible having fear at all, okay? Because if that's fear, then all the people who are living beyond their means with massive credit card debts in this country must then be considered, what, the bravest of brave? Seriously, only in a heavily debt-ridden part of the world could such a mentality emerge, okay? Overspending is a much, much bigger issue than underspending in our society, right? It's really rather curious why such common behavior would be lionized. Besides, no matter how rich someone is and how low their spending is at any given moment, the funny thing is that they could just be saving up to buy something, bigger and more expensive and silly, such as a boat. Those things are super expensive and huge money drains. So any wealthy person on their way to, let's say, boat ownership could be considered bad via that die with zero mentality, all the way up until they spring for that boat. And then all of a sudden, I guess they're doing what they should be doing, right? Making purchases. Now, finally, I do find it amusing that the die with zero people, will say something like, it's about using your money to enjoy life, not just about accumulating it, okay? In principle, I find nothing wrong with this statement, right? But I would also say that this is not in itself any sort of revelation, okay, to be honest. Accumulating money is just to avoid certain low Maslow level of hierarchy issues, okay? I think the really important thing to understand is not that finding joy in using your money, like that's a weird thing to aim for, to say, hey, you gotta use your money to have fun, but really about finding joy in things that has nothing to do with money, such as caring for your loved ones, learning new skills, meditating on the beauty of life. These are things that are not inherently expensive, right? However, I will add, okay, I can sound like a hippie and all I want, but there is still a tremendous amount of privilege that I'm operating from, right? How the heck would I even have time to learn new skills? Even if the learning your skills part is relatively cheap, right? If I didn't already have money to retire. The answer is clearly that I wouldn't or couldn't, right? But my money isn't there to be blown by any definition of that word. Instead, my money is there to provide a lofty and soft cushion only while I figure out more deeply how silly it is that other people have to spend money in order to find meaning in their lives, right? So I'm trying to get away from that whole mentality, okay? Don't aim to spend money. That is ridiculously just stupid, okay? So, I guess I spent a lot of time talking about the die with zero mentality, but mainly kind of crappy on it, right? Because today, surprisingly, I lean on the side of conservatism for a change, right? It's just not possible to predict how and when we will die, right? So having a bigger cushion is almost never a bad thing. Not to mention, I personally am definitely saving up to buy a glorious vanity item such as a vineyard instead of a boat. And since I'm not exactly a farmer, I expect that vanity purchase to be a money drain of some sort, so there, no one can call me a miser then, right? The only thing that I like about the die with zero mentality is an emphasis on acquiring certain life experiences, right? Some of those do cost money, and there's no reason not to enjoy one's life even during the accumulation stage of fire, right? I've always said that if you surprise your own urge to have some fun too much while saving for fire, well, then you just run a huge risk to overcorrect on one of those treat yourself moments down the line. And that's not helpful to anyone who wants to stick to a plan, right? So what about you guys? Do you guys want to die with as close to zero as possible, or ride a big financial cushion for as long as you can? Well, you tell me, right? By the way, I looked up the die with zero author. That guy spent something like $15 million on a painting. Is that the kind of purposes that he thinks all rich people should make? Because that is just ridiculous, and I'm sorry, I cannot respect anyone who makes purchasing decisions like that. That's just silly, okay? Not even, oh my god. Alright, anyway, till next time, cheers, a la prochaine.